All right, I'd like to call to order the Town of East Troy Planning Commission meeting for the month of October. I'd like the record to show that most of the commissioners are present, with the exception of Commissioner Smith, who, John, thank you for filling in. And Commissioner Janner had a last minute conflict emergency at work, so he's been excused tonight as well. So how we work is we are on a split meeting format. Tonight is our informational meeting where we will have the applicant come up, basically tell us what they want to do. We'll have some questions back and forth between the commission and the applicant, at which time then the applicant would sit down. The commission would have a small discussion. Then we will open it up to the audience, ask the audience if they would like to speak in favor of the proposal, if they'd like to speak against the proposal, and if necessary, the applicant would have a short rebuttal. And then we gather all our information, we adjourn for 2 weeks, we come back in 2 weeks, and we have our decision-making meeting. Now, that being said, that is not by ordinance, so if it is a straightforward decision we feel like we can make tonight, we will make it tonight. First item on the agenda is to review and approve the Plan Commission minutes. If you can help me out, what minutes we're approving?
None for tonight, but we.
My apologies, we just literally talked about this. So
it's all of July and all of August.
Okay, so we are going to table agenda item number 1 until we discuss our best practices and procedures, and then we will revisit that at the next meeting. Next item on the agenda is the variance request at N8700 Sky Lane, East Troy, PET, parcel number PET 1400005G, Edward Rump. If somebody could come up and just give us a little explanation.
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. Thanks for taking my case. I bought this property at Air Troy Estates. It's an air park, August of 17. It's a 5-acre parcel. It had just one hangar on it, no primary residence. And that's the reason I bought it. And the winter of 2021, it collapsed from snow loads. And of course I want to rebuild it. And I finally got around to it this year. And going through all the approvals with the Walworth County, found out that the variance or the stipulation is that a vacant property must have a primary residence on it before I can build an accessory building. So my argument is that it's been that way for 45 years, and it would be very difficult with the topography there to put a primary residence on there. And I just want to rebuild it, and it was rather on the small side as hangars go, and I just want to increase it a little bit, and that's about it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes. Would this be for personal use, not business?
Personal use only. Yeah, they do not allow business operations out of this air park.
So when it was built in 76, was it conforming to the codes at that time?
I have no idea. I bought it from the estate of the original builder. His son inherited the estate. That's who I bought it from. And at the time I bought it, for the sale agreement, there was no stipulation that I must build a home on it.
Are there other similar properties in this subdivision or whatever you call that area with just a hangar and no primary residence?
There are not.
They all have a primary residence.
Yes. And this is an easement property. I go through 2 of my neighbors' properties to access my property. Mm-hmm. It's at the very end of like a gravel lane.
No. So I guess the big question is when it was built in 76, what was it conforming at the time? If it was,
Sure.
If it was conforming at the time, I mean, I would think it'd be grandfathered.
Not an issue. It's A2, and at A2, it's 5 acres, so it's already a non-conforming A2. Not that that necessarily has anything to do with it. Because it's A2, obviously that's what brings in, primary residence before a secondary thing.
But that's current zoning criteria.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I would think what would be more applicable is what was in place at the time?
When did we get zoning?
Right.
Rich, help me
Well,
out
my
here.
time.
I thought it was right around 75, 77,
That's all.
huh? Yeah,
Well, this was first introduced in 74,
okay,
August of 74.
okay,
I don't know what the criteria was then, because this has all been modified.
of course.
Annual.
I have an original from Victor, but I don't know of any date on this.
You don't have the very front page with all the,
So 11/24/75.
that's the First Amendment, so August 13th, 74. Any other questions of the applicant while we've got them standing? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Then discussion amongst commissioners, I guess I'm of the opinion that it was there before, it fell down, and now we're gonna make, and he does have a point, the topography, it doesn't really, I mean, it's a 5 acre lot, but the only thing really buildable is the front area along the runway. And and so A2 has certain setbacks, he's not asking for a setback variance, so he's not looking to go closer to the property line, farther, closer to the road, anything like that. I guess those are my comments.
Well, what about the wetland delineation supposedly?
So I see no C2 currently on here,
Okay.
or sorry, C4, my apologies. All this is topography, it's not necessarily wetland. It looks like it might be darker green, but it's not delineated as C4. So it's all 100% 5 acres of A2.
Okay. Because in his notes, he talked about the sloping and the wetland, so. Okay. No problem.
Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on the topic?
Well, we'll get there. If we have any other discussion amongst commissioners, if not, then I would open it up to the audience. Would anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of the proposal? If you could come up and just state your name and address, please, for the record.
I'm JD Shrive, W604 Beach Drive. So I would be 2 lots to the south of Ed's property. And I was a president of the Homeowners Association for almost 20 years also. Where he is, well, first of all, we all want to see him be able to put his hangar back up. It's what our community is all about.
Sure.
And where he is, you really can't see that property from anybody else's property other than Air Troy Estate properties. And also, besides the topography requirements in our bylaws and covenants, subject to from the runway. So that limits where you can build. So it's another concern with his particular lot. But as far as I know, there's everyone on the field would love to see him be able to be back out there. So,
Perfect, thank you.
yeah.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Chris Hawley. I live at North 8714 Stone School Road, which is almost directly across from Ed's property. I am the current president of the Air Troy Estates Homeowners Association. And I just wanted to relate that myself and the entire board of directors are wholeheartedly in support of Ed's desire to rebuild his hangar. His hangar is almost exactly like our hangar, which makes me a little nervous. And so, as it's been said here, where the hangar is or was is almost the only place you could really put a hangar on his property. JD mentioned the fact that we have restrictions. It's a slope coming from the runway, and we have reviewed it, the board and myself, and everyone is willing to do whatever's necessary to make sure Ed can get this property rebuilt. So I think most residents, if not all, are wholeheartedly in support of this. And I hope you guys will, I agree. I think that at the time it was built, it was more the Wild West back then. I don't think there was a lot of guides. And so guys were, putting the airport together at that time. And so it's our request that you grant his variance.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Ron Wojnar. I live at N8662 Stone School Road. I'm diagonally across the runway from the variance request. I support the variance. I bought my property there in 1977, built my hangar in 1978. I received a variance at the time. I can think of at least 6 other properties out there about that time, either at my time or before 1978 that received a variance. And it's worked out great.
And the
It's
variance meaning without a primary residence?
without primary residence.
Did you subsequently build a primary residence?
Yes, I bought the property, like I said, in 77, built in 78 the hangar. And I moved around the country for my job. But I came back in 2006 and built the house. And I've lived out there. He maintains his property to a very high standard. I know the building he's going to do is better than the one that was out there. It'll look nicer. So I definitely support the variance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what is the average size of the houses around there, the amount of acreage, or does that
I don't know that it really
is
is
important?
important. Sure. Anybody else like to speak in favor of the proposal? Would anybody like to speak against the proposal? Okay, thank you. Again, in my opinion, hearing the support from the homeowners association, the limitations of the lot, I think we could act on it tonight unless anybody else disagrees.
Yeah, I think we have the authority to grant this variance.
Yes.
And as long as it's used for personal use and not business. When I spoke with our good friend at the county, and that was his concern, is that it was a personal use.
Sure.
But he said,
And it sounds like it's in the bylaws of that community already
yeah.
anyway, so.
So, yeah, I think it's an easy thing to do.
You spoke to Darren, Rich?
Yeah.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance request to allow the construction of a hangar without a primary residence on this parcel.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other public comment before we get into our other business?
Jim Zimmerman, W425 Miller Road, Burlington. My question is, what's going on with Schaeferville? We call it Schaeferville because he owns everything around us, and now he's digging another hole. And we're wondering what's going on with this property.
The last
What are
thing,
we talking about?
so you're talking about the pond?
Well, on Bill School Road, I don't know what's going on. It's the old Howe residence. House has been torn down. He tore that down. The garage he's refitted, but he's digging more holes. I don't know I'm just curious what's going on because he's got enough ponds now and we don't need any more
So
structures.
the last thing we approved on that property was 2 years ago, the pond on, I guess that'd be the west side, that's already done.
Okay, this is on the east side.
Yeah, where that old garage is?
Yeah.
That old
Well,
garage.
it's not old anymore. It's pretty nice garage now.
So if it doesn't need a variance or a setback or anything like that, if it's just permitted, if it conforms with the codes and the zoning, it wouldn't come before us. So we've not heard anything on that property. So I guess I'll say it's either conforming and he's doing
Right.
everything right, or ask Vince Budiak, our building
I'm
inspector.
gonna
would
call
be.
him up too. I'm gonna call him up and find him.
And if you don't get any response from Vince, or if he doesn't know about it, then Darren Schwanke at Walworth County would be your next.
We have some well problems coming up. We're kind of worried about that and we don't want, and that's
Sure.
part of the digging holes and all that. And,
Sure.
Because there was an existing home on that property.
yeah, he tore that down a long time
Before that,
ago.
Yes.
And Ross Miller House, they tore down and they built this big
Right.
40,000 square foot place up there.
Yep.
And they built Hume's.
He bought.
I'm being very facetious, but we call it
The whole
Schaefer's.
street he owns.
That's
Sure.
where we live
Sure.
now.
Right.
Its own little community with his cooking and his.
I apologize. We can't really, I
Yeah,
can't speak
okay.
to it because we've not
Right.
acted on anything there. So
Okay.
I can only assume that he's permitted and
Right.
within all his rights and
Right.
codes.
Okay.
But maybe your best answer is to reach out to Vince.
I'm going to Vince, okay. Okay, man, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. All right, with no other public comment, under other business, we would like to discuss, maybe Jen, you could give a little bit of a precursor on our discussion about minutes. So with our last contentious meetings, there were some issues on how minutes were taken and how they were translated. I guess the bottom line to me is minutes are not verbatim, word for word, what everybody says. If that's the case, we have video, we have recordings, if you really want to get verbatim what we talk about. So I guess I'm of the opinion, the way we've been doing them is fine. I mean, if there's a clerical error, if there's a spelling error, if there's a comma or a capitalization, I haven't really had any problem with what you've done. But if there's a different procedure or, I mean, anything you want to bring up or anybody on this board, the person probably that wanted to discuss this most was Commissioner Janner, and he's not here. But that being said, he's not here. It's on the agenda. Let's have the discussion. And I'd like to move on because we're so far behind in approving minutes.
I
What-
guess I'm of the opinion, when I first started, we were in a world of less is more. There was barely anything written on the minutes. You weren't able to look at the minutes and go back and know it was done. I tried to improve upon that, and I felt like that has become not only the work of doing it has been cumbersome, but then the edits and being slapped in the public eye
Understood?
has become more cumbersome. So my putting in the extra work and taking the extra time, and that's not something that's seen by county, it's not something that necessarily goes towards how the approval's seen. Is it worth the time and effort that we're putting in when we could return to a less is more?
Sorry, go ahead then.
I agree. It's recorded, so everything, if somebody really wants to, they can come and listen.
And where we do put the detail in is the
Resolution.
resolution. Thank you. I was
And the result.
Yeah.
I compared county minutes and the town board minutes to our minutes, and there is no glaring difference except maybe organizational.
Okay.
Uh,
That to me speaks volumes right there. So to reinvent the wheel, just to reinvent the wheel, to make certain members of the community happy is not how we work. That's not going to fly. So I guess keep doing what you're doing. I mean,
Maybe
unless I'm
put
out.
at the end of the minutes, a little bit of boilerplate saying that for complete understanding of what occurred and the best blah, 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 refer to the video.
Sure.
Very good.
That's fantastic. I
Yes.
think that's kind of a CYA, a catch-all.
Yes.
We do that. And again, minutes are kind of an outdated practice, writing down minutes because we have technology nowadays. So I think, and again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm of the opinion, keep doing what you're doing. And let's add that little disclaimer in the end, even if it's a website.
We do a less is more kind of format though, to make it a little bit less when the board has it and they're going through it and they're, basically just hunting for clerical errors.
I got a list of the minimum things that should be included, and it's consistent with the kind of simpler Robert's Rules of Orders
Sure.
list of what should be included. So as long as those individual things are covered, I think we're doing.
And
good.
Robert's Rules is pretty much how we operate.
Right,
So,
okay.
all right. Then, if you have, Rich's, bullet points that we hit,
And I do actually have Robert's rules in my office because,
I'm sure Joe Clarkowski gave that to you.
no,
No? All right.
no.
Joe gave me a,
Did he?
I don't have to hold a gavel, so.
I don't either. I think there's a Nerf gavel in here. I'll use this one.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful, the Nerf gavel. All right, then I would say that other business is settled as
I
far
will
as
have
I'm
all of the
concerned.
minutes, including this one for November.
Fantastic. Is there any other business amongst commissioners?
When are we going to approve the minutes that are outstanding?
November.
November.
We will have a November meeting, I assume,
I believe the Berkeys are going to be returning in November.
with their
They're
CSM.
having a preliminary land separation meeting with county
Sure.
this month, so they should be ready for.
I mean, I'm not really thinking we need to make a special meeting to come in and approve minutes. I would say the sooner you get them done, if we get them, say, let's just say next week,
Right.
gives us more time to approve or
Absolutely.
review them.
Yeah,
Great.
I'd say get them out ahead of time so we can work through, if anybody has any issues, we can work through it
Certainly.
in that period of time.
Certainly.
My only concern is listening to and watching the videos of the town meeting. I got the impression that we were messing things up. And, I don't think that's the case at all. So I think we should try and resolve this whole thing so we can just move on.
Move forward. Agreed.
And that's why I'm kind of thinking less is more, because if it is contentious, they're just going to
Think through.
kind of alter things from back to, or look at different perspectives. And I don't think that's the minutes are.
And the review is not to review, yes, it's to review what was said, I guess, but,
Not necessarily the content.
correct. The content is what the content is. And I feel like they've been trying to change the actual content. And the board meetings have been a little, to me, not necessarily representative of what happened here. So, Rich, do you feel we should come in 2 weeks and act on those, or?
I have an inclination to do that, but I don't want to try and drive the bus here.
Either
The
way,
issue
it will
from,
not be in front of the board until November.
so it doesn't really do us any good to get in front of it because it
Great.
would go to the town board at their next meeting. Okay.
So either way, I think we're hitting that meeting because our next meeting would be after.
Well, then let's
the board meeting.
let's keep November.
Okay,
Whether even if Berkeys don't get it in, let's meet on the minutes.
okay,
But distribute them.
100%.
as soon as possible.
Yes, please. And John, if you're not here because we won't have an alternate, please, I do want your input
Sure.
because you were at those meetings. Yep. All right.
I'll email them to everybody because Jess was here.
Uh,
as well.
Good
So
point.
I think if everybody
Good point,
gets their
please.
kick at the can, and at least we'll maybe email, not to everyone, but just singularly, and then we can include them
Fantastic.
in the packet.
Great. All right.
You're doing a fine job.
Thank you.
If there's not anything else, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. You're welcome.
You too.
Thank you.